When you look at your ruler, first of all, you've got to realize that you need a starting point. And your ruler, the end of your ruler isn't the starting point. And that's something you want to realize. Your starting point is close in that. See, there's my starting point right there. That's the starting point. It is not the edge of your ruler. You've got a 0 mark on yours also. It doesn't say 0. It's the line closest to the edge when you're looking at the 1. That's where you're always going to line things up when you're lining things up to measure. So when I'm going to measure this first line segment here, I'm not putting the ruler right there. That's not going to measure it, because that's putting the ruler on the end of the ruler, and that's not 0. 0 for me is right there. Now, all I'm worried about are 8ths, but you'll notice this ruler tells me that it's in 16ths. There it is right there. It says, look, these are 16ths. That means every little mark is a 16th. So that's a 16th, that's a 16th, that's a 16th, that's a 16th. But I'm not measuring to the 16th. So I really want to forget every other little mark. I just want to not ignore them. Oops, sorry, I started in the wrong place there. Let me erase that. Because I forgot about 0. There we go. So I want to forget every other mark. So that's 0 right there. That's a good one. That's the start of my ruler. Then I want to forget that one, because I'm never going to measure that accurately in here, at least not at this point. Then that's another 8. Then I forget that one. Then that's another 8, and I forget that one. And that's another 8, and etc. and etc. So this first one right here is going to be 1/8. Okay? And I would suggest, well, I just wait. When you're about to get a handout that has a little more clear of an example on it, and when you get that, you probably want to copy my little picture so that you can have it as a reference. So if you forget when you're not taking a quiz, you can refer to that, because I'm not going to answer that anymore. If you say, where's the 8th, I'm going to say, where's your picture? And if you don't have your picture, then, well, you're out of luck. You've got to take care of your business and get that stuff done. So this is 1/8. The second one is going to be 1/4. And you can look on your ruler. On your ruler, 1/4 is a little bigger than some of the other things. This ruler, the only big ones are here at the main inches, and then it's got them here like 1/4 and 1/2. And your half, I believe, should be longer, right, than the 1/4. The 1 inch for you is the longest. The 1/2 is next, and then the 1/4 are next. So they're trying to help you out, because there's all these little lines all over the place, and they're trying just to make it easier for you to see what you're up to. So when I'm measuring this particular line segment, I say, okay, it's 1 inch. I'm forgetting that, and I'm going, okay, that's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. So that's 1 4/8, which, as we know, is 1.5 inches. You saw the feet marks that you had on your quiz yesterday and on your handout Monday. Feet is 1 little mark, inches is 2 little marks. You ought to really have a piece of paper that you write down really important stuff on, that you keep track of. The ruler that you should draw once you get your handout, that's important. You probably somewhere on that same piece of paper, you ought to put single mark as feet, double mark as inches, because I'm not answering those questions anymore. I expect you to do your job, which is to try to learn stuff, and if you're going to learn stuff, you're going to have to write some things down. You cannot expect that you're going to come in here tomorrow and remember what 2 little marks is. You're going to need to have that written down on a piece of paper that's kind of in a nice place so that you can remember that sort of stuff, because I'm not going to sit here and answer questions that you have the answer to. You need to build your own little study guide, your own little thing. You're 10th graders and above. You can handle this. And really, you've got to start learning. Y'all are, by the way, awful at taking notes. And I'm going to say that even though I haven't really seen y'all in this class take notes much before. I mean, by this time, when I was in high school, and I know you hear this all the time, I was taking notes and then transcribing my notes and then setting up a little study guide as I got toward tests for my own self. I mean, y'all expect me to tell you when to write stuff down and when to not write stuff down. You should be able to figure that out by now. You should go, oh wow, that's important. That's a geometry thing. I'll try to help you with it when I can, but You got to kind of figure that out on your own. All right, let's look at the second example. I'm going to move the ruler up here, set it on the 0 point, and I see 2. That's my next spot. So 2, that's important. I know I have at least 2 inches. Again, I'm forgetting that mark. That's a 16th. There's 1/8, and there is 2/8 or a 1/4. So, remember what I said about Grandma's house a minute ago. We are in between. That's our house. That's Grandma's house. We got to figure out which one we're closer to, because a lot of times when you're measuring to the nearest eighth of an inch, you're going to end up in this no man's land in between. And you need to understand what the basic understanding of rounding is. Rounding is simply, am I halfway to Grandma's house or not? If I am, then I'm going to pretend like I'm already there. And if I'm not, then I'm going back home, just like we talked about a minute ago. For decimal numbers, 5 is the middle. For rulers, the 16th mark is the middle. But who cares what it is? The whole point is, when you're rounding, you've got to think about what's the middle value. So for us, the middle value is right here at this 16th mark. There's the middle. Have we gotten halfway to Grandma's house? Yes, I would say so. Okay, we're there. We're not before it, we're not much after it, if any, we're there. So therefore, we're 1/8, 2/8. The answer would be 2 1/4 inches. 2 1/4 inches. Who has a question on the measuring? Okay. No questions now, I'm sure there'll be a few in a bit. That's fine.